Fleet Sync's very similar, just slightly different options. Again, it's more of a dealer thing. You'll really have to know. P25 again. More advanced features. Do you want it to display? How you want it to display? Individual list. Also, you've got to put it in here to get the Bob or Jack on your display. You can do it in NXDN. If you're using NXDN Digital, you do probably have to select this to display the call. Ignore a group call during an individual call. That's an advanced feature. Again, there's that word stack for messages. You can store in the radio, you can tell it to store messages or caller ID incomes. Like, I think it's like 5 or 10 or something, and then it erases the oldest. So you can go back and say, figure out who was talking if you do it fast enough. If you have it attached to a computer with the Kenwood software, it can keep a longer record. You can also come over here and put in an individual list, just like we did on P25, just like we did on MDC. This is useful if you get into the advanced features of making an individual call from one walkie to another on a trunking system. Again, that's an advanced feature, so not going to get into it. DMR is grayed out because we're not going into that today. Encryption. Okay, you'll notice there's general encryption stuff, P25, NXDN, DMR, and a multi-key list. Okay, so in P25, to do encryption, you have to purchase a chip, which then you take this panel off and you put the chip inside. The chip has a separate cable and a separate software programming box to put in the code. NXDN comes built in the radio from Kenwood. So we'll do an encryption type 1. We're going to come over here. We're going to do NXDN type. We're going to come over here and pick our code key. Code key in P25 will be programmed into the chip. This one lets us do it from 1 to 32,767. So unless somebody knows what number you put in your radio, they can't decode you. Hit tab, and we're going to name it key 1. And you notice you can have multiple keys in here. 32 keys. So you can have up to 32 different encryptions codes. So you could have 32 different channels in NXDN Digital encrypted. It gets pretty crazy. But it's a nice feature because it's built in, it's free. Once you've selected that, you have to tell it per channel whether you want it on or off, and that's only, in this case, would be an NXDN type. So let's go back to our channel. We're going to go to our, NXDN zone. We're going to go to channel edit, and this is an NXDN one. So we're going to go down here. NXDN should be encryption. Here we are. And there's that key number, number 1. We could have called it something else, but that's what it is. So that one is now encrypted. You can go to the key assignment page, and you can find the encryption button, but doesn't say encryption. So I'm going to go and tell you what it is. Let's go find an open button function. We'll make that encryption. It's not encryption. It's like scrambler encryption, because you can scramble in analog as well as in digital. So this button enabled will allow you to scramble a analog channel, but both the transmitting and receiving radios would both have to have that on, same as the encryption. If you're using encryption, in my opinion, I would just leave it programmed on per channel. Otherwise it gets kind of stupid. In digital. I know in NXDN, I don't know about P25, but if it receives a call, the caller ID will still display, but the speaker won't open in encryption. So you'll know that the channel's busy, somebody's using the channel. All you see is the caller ID display. You'll know it's encrypted. Somebody doesn't want you to hear what they're doing, maybe a supervisor, and that's turning that on and off. Important to note about encryption as well. If a radio is programmed with encryption and it's turned on, and somebody makes a call on a digital unencrypted channel, the one that is encrypted will still hear it. So if you're encrypted, you hear everything. All right, back to encryption. I think that was it. Yeah, our key assignment. Okay, this is grayed out. I don't even know what KMF means. All right, special tones. Oh, okay. You can come in here and you can change the different sounds this thing makes. You have to just kind of play with this and test it. If you're doing paging and stuff, instead of going dee 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 dee, you can go dur 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 or whatever. Same thing looks like with the power on. You can change its tone as well. Close that. Audio profile. Mostly advanced features. However, speaker and microphone type become important on certain things. If you're using, Kenwood makes several different models of speaker mic with this, and there's a list in the help menu of what microphone 1 through 6 means, and it tells you which models they correspond to. I wish they had just put it right here, would have been easier, but you have to go to the help list to find out. Let's see if this takes it to us. List in here somewhere. If you can't find it that way, help is your friend. MICRO, microphone type. There we go, microphone type. So microphone 1 is this model, a 54 WD. Microphone 2 are these different models. Microphone 3 are these different models, and so on and so forth. Speaker. This becomes more important in the mobiles, as a standard mobile radio can have 3 different speaker configurations. Control head, the control head microphone display unit. It has 2 different speaker jacks on the back of the radio, low powered and high powered speakers. A bit more advanced, you really want to have a dealer help you with that. Receive audio response in digital. So if you are running digital and things sound a little teeny, you can play with this like an equalizer and bring them in more bassy, or if you've got a guy on the radio who's really deep voice, and you can go and manipulate their radio so that it comes through a little tinny, and you can do it on the transmit and the receive side. I would not recommend messing with this unless you really know what you're doing. So that's audio. Emergency key. If you're using the emergency key and you can pre-program it for a duration of time when you hit the button, and you can program it to how many seconds you have to take to push the button, I believe. You can go. I usually use 20 or 30 seconds if somebody really needs it, and then it goes into like a speaker microphone type of thing. It becomes very sensitive, so you can talk like 5 or 6 feet away from the radio and go, help, I'm falling, I can't get up, and it'll do that it'll transmit for like 20 or 30 seconds, whatever you program, and you can make it if you're in digital, you can make it transmit to a specific base station or radio or the entire fleet. But again, these are more advanced features. Extended function, that's an advanced feature, don't mess with it. Display customization. Also more advanced feature, but you may remember that word stack, which I said was Japanese for messages. You can come in here, find that word, and change it to message. That's what I did for mine. And there's long strings, short strings, key guides. Again, more advanced features to mess with. Test frequency, don't mess with it. That's for tuning the radio. Enabled message. If you want to put a little message in here, like if somebody finds your radio and a dealer reads it, they could, even if you put a password in, they can read this, and you can put something in there like sheriff's office phone number. They can call you and get your radio back. You can do one with the password if you need some extra information. I never use it, but anyway. That's programming this radio. All right, next we're gonna actually program the radio. So I'm gonna come up here. I'm gonna open a file for this radio. I don't want to save my changes. I don't really care because I have my own file. What is this one? This one is this one. Now, as I mentioned before, it's a kind of a slow program, so it'll take a minute. As you can see up here, it says not responding, but it will come up. I'm attaching my cable. And the radio is ready to program. Yay, finally. Okay. We're ready to program our radio. I'm going to go up here to program. I want to go to write. If you want it to erase the DPS data that might be stored in it, if you want it to, if you also want to adjust the time. Consecutive write is if you're using the same file to program multiple radios, but you're going to have a different ID, then you'd come in here and you'd put in the different IDs per zone. As you can see, I have lots of zones in this particular radio, different ID numbers. I could make it do that. In my case, I just create a different file for each radio because there's always subtle differences in the different radios, maybe a button here or there. So I generally don't do that. It's also not necessary if you're not using caller ID. So I'm going to go right. Now, if we try to program this with a license that it does not have in the radio, it will give us an error message and tell us that, and we'll have to go back to model